good to have you with us in the 9 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate. It's been nearly 4 days, and for residents of Chennai, there's been no respite from not just the rain, but more importantly, the water logging in many parts of the city. So far in the state of Tamil Nadu, 14 people have died because of heavy rainfall. So tonight we are going to focus on the capital city of the state that has been waterlogged, even though there was a break in rainfall over the last few days until it resumed very heavily today. People stranded in their own homes or wading through water, scrambling for drinking water and access to essentials. Now, before we bring to you tales of sorrow, despair and futile cries for help, let me start by showing you some of the visuals from the inundated city that really tell you the extent of the pain and the struggle and the destruction. Here are some of those visuals that we got today. In Chennai's Krompet area, over 100 patients had to be shifted to other hospitals after the water entered the hospital premises. The water actually entered the government hospital. Patients had to wade through rainwater as they were evacuated from the hospital and moved to other places. Another hospital located in KK Nagar in Chennai saw heavy waterlogging following the rains. While ESI hospital was functional, patients and their attendants had to wade through the water inside the hospital again. Now, as the streets remained waterlogged throughout the day, the Vellachari Bridge in Chennai turned into a car parking lot, with four-wheelers parked bumper to bumper on the bridge, with nowhere else in the city, in their neighborhood, to safely park their cars. With most roads flooded, residents actually ended up parking their cars on this bridge itself. Let's also get you visuals of a hero police inspector who, amid the heavy rain, was seen carrying a man on her shoulder after the man was found lying unconscious at a cemetery. And this lady inspector picked up the man and rushed him to the hospital, helping him there in these conditions. Let's also tell you what our reporters brought us through the day. The kind of damage the rains have done in Chennai. Trees uprooted in several areas. The SDRF team members deployed on ground were seen clearing the debris and the damaged trees through the day in areas, of course, where the water had receded enough for them to now go and do this kind of damage control work. But with piled up debris impacting flow of canal water in Chennai, a robotic excavator was deployed to remove the trash at the confluence point of the Mambalam Canal and River Adayar near YMCA. So, heavy-duty equipment which the civic body was ready with since there was an alert of heavy rainfall. All of this equipment on standby, and this excavator then used to remove some of the debris such that the canal exits and entry points could be cleared for better movement of water. But where you put a question mark on the urban governance was really out in the open. An example was seen when a road caved in Chennai's Mandaveli area. Police had to barricade the road and had a tough time regulating the traffic. This happened yesterday and it just got worse through the day. Obviously, this road completely shut. In fact, in Alwarpet's Sitamal colony, waterlogging led to widespread damage. Fire service officials on ground were trying to rescue those who had been stranded. However, residents say that the helpline numbers that had been put out by various agencies were actually of no help.
We are here at Alwarpet Sitamal colony, and here the Tamil Nadu Fire and Rescue Services has deployed its boats to rescue people. This area is completely inundated, and people have been messaging and sending out SOS messages to the authorities to rescue them. And this is what we can see on our screens. People are moving out. Sir, so there are people on this boat who are being taken by the Fire and Rescue Service authorities. Ma'am, where are you heading? You are vacating this place and going?
No, actually we've come here for a marriage registration because we're leaving the country.
Okay.
So we got married yesterday and we're here for registration.
Okay. The office is functioning today?
Yeah, they'll be closed in another 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a red alert.
So a newly married couple have come to register their marriage on a rainy day like this or probably a stormy day like this, and they are being now taken by the fire and rescue department officials from here to the other side. They have been here in this office for quite some time, and they have been sending out messages that they need some sort of an assistance, and they are being taken here from here to the other side of the road. And this particular boat has been deployed for helping people. In fact, there have been a lot of SOS messages and calls that the authorities have been receiving from this area and asking for some sort of assistance to move in and out. So this boat has been particularly deployed for that purpose, and to provide food or medicine or even some sort of assistance to the people who have been trapped here because of massive water logging in this area. There you can see also children from the local area are playing here. For them, it's some sort of a fun activity. But this is something that is happening on ground where we can see people are hugely inconvenienced due to these rains. And this is something that is happening on ground where people are literally ringing up authorities, demanding that power should be restored because they have been out of power for at least 5 days. And also at the same point of time, people are, even an ambulance you can see is wading through this water and making its way to the other side. So this is what the situation is on ground. Terrible scenes coming out from Chennai, even as rains are lashing out.
On one hand there, an ambulance being called for somebody who's stranded there, clearly in need of dire medical assistance. On the other hand, people also becoming so used to this kind of a setup that it's not stopping them from going about important days in their life, such as registering their marriage because they have international travel plans, hiring a boat such that work can be done on time irrespective of the condition in the city. Residents of Kalatur area living around Narayanapuram Lake were rescued after the lake water inundated residential areas. Now, citizens there reveal that they've been suffering due to rains, of course, for the last decade, actually.
We are in Kalatur, and the areas around the Narayanapuram lake is now completely inundated after the lake has overflowed in the morning today, and there are more than 5,000 residents in this particular area, and now they are being rescued by the fire and rescue personnel. And power also has been disrupted since morning, and in several areas we have seen in areas like Ashok Nagar or KK Nagar, the several areas are now inundated, and as the rain continued since yesterday night, the several areas have come underwater. So now the rescue operations are underway in areas around Narayanapuram Lake, and that is what we are hearing from the fire and rescue personnel. They say the depth goes up to 6 feet as they go deep inside. Been reported, sir.
This is not the first time for us. This has been happening for quite some time. This is the third or fourth time being here. For last 10-12 years, we have been suffering like this. And every time we expect government to do something, and this time also we are expecting the same. Hope things get better soon.
Sir, since morning we have seen water levels are increasing, sir. How you are managing your basic needs?
Life is very tough. So I have an elderly mother, and their kids are there. It's unimaginable to get things done.
Sir, really, how many people are there in the areas around this lake, sir, and how they are managing the situation?
Roughly about 3,000 families are living here.
Was there any help reached out to you, sir? Now we are seeing that you been moved by the
life. I mean, this is the more importantly, they are rescuing the people. That's the most important help they are doing it.
Thank you, sir. So that is what we are hearing from the locals here. They say every year they see situation like this happens, and they are making constant appeals to the Tamil Nadu state government to find a permanent solution to it. But once again, the areas around the Narayanapuram lake have come underwater and seriously inundated. with video journalist Vijay Mugilan for Mirror Now.
In Alvarpet, an old age home has been struggling for the last 5 days due to the rains and water logging. Delivery of essentials such as water itself, as well as food, has been a challenge. The caretakers claim they have actually not received any help from the state government.
We are right outside Brindavan Anna Illam, which is a old age home where at least 30 elderly people and children are staying here. Just a few minutes ago, this boat that was deployed by the fire and rescue service officials arrived here to provide water for these people. In fact, food was also arranged by them and it was delivered by these personnel who have been deployed by the Tamil Nadu government. For the caretaker was just telling me that how it's been a nightmare for them for the past 5 days without electricity, without any kind of assistance. In fact, they have been arranging food from outside and it's being delivered with the help of these personnel who are here helping out people in this particular area.
12 கால் கரெக்டாக சாப்பிட்ருவாங்க. இப்போ இது வரைக்கும் இப்போ தான் சார் வந்து சாப்பிட போகிறாங்க. தண்ணி இல்லை. இப்போ தான் மணி பாருங்க 2:30.
So it's 3:30 only now. These people have got food and the water has just arrived. So this is how things are really bad at this old age home. In fact, they say that no officials from the Tamil Nadu government has visited this particular place, and in fact if they want to move people out, it's simply not possible because all of them are above the age of 90. So it's literally impossible for them, 99, even 99. So it's impossible for them to move people out from this location.
Some of the reports that we got through the day in various parts where significant waterlogging was seen. And actually, the 2 days of heavy rainfall that we saw were on Sunday and then today. But the water levels pretty much in many parts of the city where we saw waterlogging stayed like that throughout. And that itself is a big story to tell and a big question to ask. Where is it that the entire structure itself is failing? You can't really blame it on heavy rainfall anymore when for 3 days there isn't heavy rainfall but the water doesn't recede. That's where the problem for the city of Chennai really lies. The problem that there isn't proper exit of this water. The drainage system, the drain canal system that should exist in most metro cities is failing here. And the fact that a lot of the areas are built on encroached water bodies and now there is no return from that point. So what next? These are some of the things that become point of conversation every time we stare at such a situation. The last time was the deluge of 2015 and tonight as well. Sumansi Raman joins me this evening. Abhinash Mohanty, program lead for CEEW, A. Sarvanan of the DMK, and Karuna Gopal of the BJP. And I want to start off with Sumant, who's obviously seen this issue as a citizen, as a resident, year after year. And to your mind, where is it that we are failing? Often, Sumant, before such deluge, we hear from the government saying desilting work is on, crores of funds have been allocated, this and that is being done. Yet, the situation doesn't change.
Tanvi, I think that this is something that we see across the country. I mean, Chennai has been sort of facing it a bit more, has been having more than its fair share in the last 5-6 years. But across the country, the system, the issues are the same. The civic bodies have a fair amount of money allocated for desilting, allocated for creating stormwater drains and so on. And believe me, that money is spent. Now, whether the stormwater drains get built is a different issue altogether, but the money is spent on these, quote unquote, spent on these activities. So that is a fundamental issue which has not been resolved anywhere, because any political party sees these kind of public work department area as a kind of a cash cow, in terms of funding the contractor nexus with the politicians, with the government officials. That is something which we have a problem with throughout the country. So that's point number one. Chennai has more than its fair share of this nexus. Second is some of the decisions taken in the last 2 or 3 decades, especially with regards to encroachment on water bodies. Many of these areas which actually got flooded, some of them are lake beds. They are actually lakes, on which rampant encroachment has happened with the connivance of corrupt officials in the Metropolitan Development Authority of Chennai and the corporation in the outlying areas. So none of this is something that has happened by accident. People have made money in huge quantities over decades, and the citizens are paying the price. And there is full responsibility must be shared by the two political parties who have dominated Tamil Nadu politics for the last 50 years and have ruled in turns without actually solving the basic infrastructure issue. Now, the one thing that they've been excellent at is pointing fingers at each other. And I'm sure we will see some of it on this program as well, where, there will be fingers pointed at previous government. They didn't do this, they swindled the money and so on. But the point is not that. The point is citizens have also been complicit. Many of the citizens who bought these places in water bodies knew fully well. When I was in school, Velacheri was hardly inhabited. It was a huge water body, it was a lake. And people would not even think of buying places there because everybody knew it was a low-lying area. Today, it's one of the most developed areas of the city. How on earth do you expect that area not to flood up? You showed the vehicles being parked on the flyover. So these are things which are man-made. Some of it is global warming, a lot of it is nature maybe, but quite a bit of it is man-made, and both the citizens and to a larger extent the governments that have ruled the state for the last 50 years will have to take the blame.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, a lot of it is man-made. Climate change indirectly is also man-made. And we know it's going to happen, and so we must prepare for it. But, the point that you made, Mr. Sumansi Raman, across cities in our country today, we are witnessing this. Chennai, of course, gets it at this time of the year because that's when the heavy rainfall actually happens, versus several other cities who see it earlier in the year when the monsoon hits them. Mumbai, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Delhi, same story. Literally the same story everywhere. And largely for the same reasons. And we had a conversation once where we actually highlighted this to people who knowingly or unknowingly buy these homes in Lakeview, Riverview kind of projects which are sold to them without maybe doing the due diligence to realize that these projects are actually being built on places where they should not be built. And a corrupt nexus of local leaders, civic body officials and the builders have managed to get their approvals in place and gone ahead and built it. And today, everybody is paying the price for it. But the problem there is, how do you go back from this? Sarvanan, before we talk about how do we go back from this, we must talk about what Mr. Sumansi Raman said, that both the leading political parties must take accountability. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't in the last 6 months. It was also not just in the last 10 years, but over the last 2 or 3 decades.
Tanvi, if you look at Chennai is one of the rain-prone areas, and it has witnessed its own share of floods. Not now, probably last 100 years, any number of floods have ravaged Chennai. But this stagnation, this logging and human suffering has been in the point, or it has been highlighted so much probably after 2015. Prior to that, the British has built a robust stormwater drain system in the city of Chennai. And the earlier drains, whatever, the stormwater drains or whatever, they were all augmenting the already existing structure very well. But what happened after 2015? See, anybody who's coming and talking that this is the accountability of the parties last 50 years, this is not a story of last 50 years. See, last 50 years, nobody knew about floodplains. Nobody gave so much of importance to environmental impact. It was a rapid urbanization.
Yes, politicians didn't.
Let me complete this.
Sarvanan, politicians didn't.
No. Tanvi, I'll
Citizen
come to this,
state,
Tanvi.
No.
citizen
No,
state and
Tanvi.
environmentalist state.
No, Tanvi. No.
Expert
That's what
state,
Tanvi.
Saravanan.
Yes, Tanvi. If the
Only
citizens were bothered about
2015 onwards they started thinking about the
Sir,
environment.
allow me to speak, sir. Why is he intervening unnecessarily? You had your turn, sir. Please wait patiently. Have some decency. So the thing is this. See, I'm talking, as pointed out, this is not the situation in Chennai alone. The floodplains in Yamuna floodplains in Delhi, Bengaluru lakes in Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Mumbai. See, this is the price we got to pay for urbanization. The question now is, this is the situation. This cannot be remedied. You cannot undo the structures. You cannot raise off the structures now because it is built on a lake or thing. See, the English built. If you go 100 years back, right now Nungambakam, T Nagar, Westmambalam, all those places were a huge lake. So can we go now and say this is built on a lake? So this is the folly of the British. No, that is not how we approach this issue. This issue. So
But
this is
Mr.
the problem.
Saravanan, in the last 20-30 years, there is no denying the fact that everybody was very well aware of it and still permissions were given. Government after governments have come out with rules that only make it easier for the builders. And those who get paid by these builders. Please, let's not be in denial of that. We have to take accountability of the fact that the citizens today are suffering for that reason.
Yes, Tanvi. I totally agree with what you're saying. Definitely, if you ask me whether these should have happened, I would say these should not have happened. But it has happened. This is nobody has swindled them, and they have not taken it back. This is for public purposes. This is for human settlement. They want rapidly. Everybody wanted to live in a city, so the city automatically expands. So this has happened. Now the question is,
Oh my
whoever
God.
says, come on, let me say this, Tanvi. Whoever is saying that the accountability should be with both the parties is an apologist of the ADMK party.
No.
Because
I'm sorry.
I'll come to that.
How is it just for the AIADMK to take the blame?
Yes, I'll come to that. I'm coming to that now. Yes. In 2015, see, this flood mitigation gains importance from 2015. Prior to that, Chennai never witnessed such a deluge, such human misery. So from 2015, thousands and thousands of crores, 5,000 crores have been put into the drains, and it's gone to the drains. So if we are not going to ask them what happened to that 5,000 crores, we are just brushing the issue. This is not blaming.
No. So one minute. Nobody is brushing the issue. Of course, AIADMK has to be held accountable so much so that they know after they got routed from after the elections, they haven't appeared on any conversations, and I'm going to reiterate that tonight for our viewers that AIADMK refuses to be part of any television debate on English news channels at least. That's how much they're running away from being held accountable because it doesn't help them. I have said this for record. But now, since you are here, Mr. Saravanan, before I go to our other two panelists, and we're going to talk about the solutions in just a bit, tell me, is it true or not true that a lot of the key part of the desilting work actually only started in September, and the deadlines of mid-October were missed to finish it?
Only 770 kilometers were desilted.
Yes.
It started in June 2021. It started in
Then
June
why is it not
2021.
done?
It was done. That is what I'm saying. Yeah, I'll come and explain the problem. So
Okay.
the desilting was started in June 2021 by the Corporation Commissioner, Mr. Gagan Bedi. He has desilted the entire stormwater drains, the river mouths, all of them were desilted. The rains that has come here, and yes, one more issue that has happened is the stormwater drains that has been built by the ADMK party is in total misalignment. They don't drain the water. That is the problem. It is not augmenting or improvising the earlier British stormwater drains. They were running contrary. That is how the money was. Sir, allow me to speak, sir. Why do you keep interrupting?
You have been
No,
speaking
one
non-stop.
minute. You are saying, one minute. Okay, calm down. Mr. Saravanan, you are saying, 1 minute, calm down. Saravanan here is claiming, Sumansi Raman, that all the desilting work was done. And then came the rains and they ruined it. Mr. Sumansi Raman, yes.
1 second. I don't know how Mr. Saravanan made this claim, because the minister in charge himself has said, and on television to the media, that around 770 out of the 1,700 or almost 2,000 kilometers of drains have only been desilted. This is on record. I mean, I don't know where Mr. Saravanan is getting this information that the entire stormwater drains were desilted. His own minister has not said that. His own minister has accepted this.
See,
I mean,
Tanvi, let him finish.
Okay.
The question is this. See, we are saying I told you from the beginning what we could do in the last 3 months from June 2021. The work started in June 2021. The stormwater drains, you are asking whether you are prepared or not. I am pointing out how earlier we started.
So I'll tell you
June
what.
2021.
So I will tell you a simple thing. Okay, yes. Your claim is that we finished, whereas there are multiple commentary that's coming from civic body officials and the government about how much work is done and yet to be done. Let's for once keep that aside. Let's for once keep that aside.
Is on record. Mr. K.N. Nehru is on record saying that 770. The Chief Minister also has announced that, saying 770.
And one very simple fact, Mr. Sumansi Raman, and I want to bring in Abhinash Mohanty on this. One very simple fact is, one minute, Saravanan, just listen to me. You will understand why I'm saying this. Okay. A very simple way to judge whether the work was done or not. The last round of heavy rainfall was witnessed on Sunday, before today. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there wasn't any heavy downpour in most parts of the city. The water did not recede. If you had to tell me that it was constantly pouring there, and that is why we couldn't help it even though we finished the desilting work and the cleaning up of drainage and we unclogged all of the drains such that the water could flow, it would not take 4 days for this water to go away. But it did. That tells us that it's not just a problem of encroachment, low-lying areas and projects being built on water bodies, but it is also that the drainage system, despite crores of rupees being spent on it, is not still working. Abhinash, it comes to the point, two aspects. What can be done right now and what's the long-term solution to what Saravanan is saying, abhi to wahan pe ghar bana diya, we've built it. We can't break it, we can't remove thousands of people. So now what?
Tanvi, thank you for having me. As I speak, I'm speaking from the sidelines of COP26 from Glasgow. So, of course, when the negotiations and debate are going on in terms of mainstreaming climate change, we are trying to discuss a very hyperlocal problem at Chennai. And Chennai floods are not new. Let me put things into perspective with numbers and research that we did. We recently released the Climate Vulnerability Index for India. And what we found is that Chennai district is one of the most climate vulnerable districts. Now, it's not a new thing, right? So climate vulnerability of Chennai is not a new thing. And whatever floods we are seeing is actually a resultant of incessant rainfall happening in a couple of hours. Why it is happening? Because we have changed more than 50% of our landscape indicators, like our mangroves, our forest cover, and our natural drainages. We have disrupted more than 50% of that. And this is what our research suggests. And disrupting 50% will have implications. And we are just finding those implications in regular intervals now. The frequency and intensity is just going to increase in spite of whatever crores of money we are going to spend it, unless we have a sustainable strategic plan to deal with it. We can't just shift our goalpost and start enacting every year once the flood is about to come. We need to have that planning in place. And what is the short-term solution? First and foremost, we need to look at the landscape of Chennai and restore, regenerate those landscapes first, because Chennai by default had a lot of wetlands as well as a lot of forest cover. So we can have a urbanized forest cover across the city because they will restrict the flood. At the same time, we can have the wetlands regenerated because regenerating them will act as a natural shock absorber. That's the first thing. Second is, while we are building our infrastructures, the critical infrastructures like roads, bridges, and allied things, we need to take care of the flow of the water. From where is it coming? It's not just going to be an system where the low-lying areas are flooded. Now the city is being flooded, and we just saw that Chennai, being one of the most megapolis city in India, had its people or the citizens going on boats for a marriage registration or for a medical test. That's awful. We can't have our cities built like this. So what short-term solution we need to have is, we need to have that master plan integrated with sustainable planning that promotes nature-based solutions. Nowhere in the plans we have those nature-based solutions being placed. So that's a short-term thing, and whatever discussion we are having about the political goalposts being shifted, I would refrain myself on commenting on that, but with evidence, I would suggest that we need to invest on those nature-based solutions. We can't just evacuate people by destroying their houses. The second long-term solution that I would talk of is, while Chennai's because floods, our research analysis also suggests that Chennai is one of the most drought as well as flood hotspots. So flood, while we ran out of water in Chennai, we are seeing floods being overcrowding it across all the regions. So first and foremost, what we have to do is we have to identify those risks at a city level. We can't just wait an early warning coming down 3 days before and we are left over with not having anything to work, right? So we need that granular assessment to be done, and that is why identifying that risk is first. Second is, you need to identify that risk, and by identifying those risks, link it to your critical infrastructure development, which is at the core of the city development. And third, what has to be done is, you need to pump in some public money at a public-private partnership level in order to build those infrastructures disaster ready, which is primarily human-induced. I hope I made my points quite loud and clear.
Oh, yes, absolutely, Abhinash, as always. And I appreciate you joining us on this conversation, all the way from Glasgow, where, of course, a larger conversation, which is also extremely crucial for the world, is going on. Do stay on if you can. Let me bring in Karuna Gopal as well, who's patiently waited and heard everybody else out. But Karuna, the point also is that governments after governments have shied away from looking at this from a holistic point of view. Every development plan, every new project in any big metro city of ours, even when we build new cities, let's just take the example of Gurgaon. Gurgaon faces the same problem. It's a millennium city. It's largely been built only in the last 20-25 years. It still has the same problems. We just don't seem to understand that we need to bring in these basics while we plan our expansion.
Tanvi, it's really heartbreaking to see our cities get into this state of absolute disruption. And at a macro level, I think our Indian cities that are really hubs of entrepreneurship and economic vitality are really crumbling, and that really affects me quite badly at a very personal level. Now, two things can be attributed to this. One is we cannot ignore the climate change that is happening. The other one is gross negligence at the city level. At the municipal level, we just don't seem to have our act right at all. So when we look at, now let me just put forth today that climate change cannot be taken for granted at all. I mean, globally now we know that at least 10 cities are going to disappear like that. And 4 of them are from highly developed countries like United States of America. And we have also seen what happened to New York with people with mayors at the helm of affairs like Michael Bloomberg, and the stakeholders coming, financial capital, things have just gone out of hand. So climate change is a leveler and we better watch out for it. And Chennai being a coastal city, we need to be extremely careful and be prepared for any kind of a disaster. The second thing is, at the city level, I'm really depressed and quite disgruntled looking at the system that exists. Basic things like protecting the ecological assets are not being done. Where are the ridges? In fact, the spokesperson from DMK, I would like to ask, can you please tell me what is the ratio of your road length and the stormwater drain length? I doubt if you have the proportion right. And even if you desilt the existing drains, still you will have this flooding because you don't have the basic infrastructure, the basic infrastructure. Then allowing encroachments on the lake beds is a disaster. Velcherry was a lake, and I stayed in a 5-star hotel there. And FTL, I doubt if any of them have actually done the study of full tank levels and stopping illegal encroachments. At a city level, there's disaster, there's corruption, perhaps, and there is laziness, I would say.
So why doesn't any political party in any part of the state or the country do anything about it? We sitting here and talking. We all know what the issues are. We all know where it, how it started, how it's continuing. But we still don't seem to care enough to actually make people who are indulging in this kind of wrongdoings accountable for it. And people continue to, it's normalized now, Karuna Gopal today. Like that couple who hired a boat to go and get their marriage registered. People are finding ways to work around these kind of issues, have fun within these issues. Some obviously can't and are struggling to get drinking water, have not had power in their house for 4 days, don't have any medical supplies. People stranded in old age homes are struggling. Obviously, their voice is never going to reach any minister in any state.
Tanvi, can I say something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, see, first of all, I think all the cities have to be compelled, pushed, urged, pressurized to look at what NDMA has been prescribing. The National Disaster Management Authority has been saying that you need to have alert systems. You need to have your backup people ready. You need to have some sensors to tell you, if certain areas have to be protected well. For instance, just now, one of the panelists was talking about vulnerability maps. And all the cities have utter disregard for technical reports.
Yes, you're right. Half the time their weather radars don't function. It's a constant problem, and I want to go back, before I go to Suman Siraban, go back to Abhinash Mohanty on this. Abhinash, it's a constant problem where in cities we don't even have functional radars. It was a problem when the last two cyclones hit the city of Mumbai and heavy rainfall took place. We were absolutely in the dark because we didn't know what was happening and the radar couldn't catch it. It's the same problem in Chennai. The available equipment is not even functional. That's how low our level of attention is.
This answer by a positive note. As a country, what we have been able to do is we have been able to save lives. But what we haven't been able to do is saving livelihoods, infrastructures, and some sort of economic sector ravaging that has happened of late, right? There needs to be a cohesion between the policymakers, decision maker, not just at NDMA level, but also at a subnational level. And further below, at a city level, where the main impact has been felt, whether it is city or at a district level, rather I would say, because we are far off from going to the cities at this point of time. We don't have a coherence among all of this. So first and foremost is our early warning systems have improved. That is why before 3 days or before 5 days, you get those alerts. But what has been a problem is there is no maintenance of these early warning systems. And at time, you don't get that information working out because we always state that there's going to be heavy rainfall. We never say that these are the roads. Impact-based early warnings are always missing. Just to give you an example of the impact-based early warning system, it's all about if the rainfall is going to happen, which are the parts of a particular city that are going to be inundated? How exactly are your basic services going to be disrupted and at what level? So this kind of information needs to be provided at the fingertips. When we are talking of 5th-generation mobile services at our fingertips, we need to understand that this technology is at hand in terms of providing those impact-based solutions.
Yeah.
It's just about a matter of fact, how we cohesively bring all the actors together rather than politically shifting the goalpost and not climate-proofing our cities at this point of time. If we don't do it at the earliest, these are grim warnings, I would say. Things are going to be worse. And we would always be debating over a primetime TV channel rather than finding out solutions.
Yeah. The solutions are right there. And we have so many experts, you included, who are willing to give those solutions, provided the governments want to listen and work on them. Otherwise, it's committee after committee, report after report, lying, somewhere forgotten completely, gathering dust. Mr. Sumansi Raman wants to make a point. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, 2-3 quick points. The hospital that you just been showing, where the water went in, I've done some work there many years ago. And this flooding is almost an annual feature. And I'm talking of at least 20 to 25 years. This is not new. This is the Krompet GH, which is bang on the main highway leading out of Chennai. It is right on the road, and it gets flooded year after year after year, at least for the last 20 plus years. Second, I was told that this was told to me by somebody who had worked in the corporation, that the city does not have a detailed stormwater drain map. Basically, the engineers in the local region figure it out on the fly, because they do not even know in some places in which direction the water flows down the stormwater drain in all the streets in their area. Now, this is as bad as it gets. The radar problem, the IMD completely missed the disastrous spell last Saturday night, Sunday morning. 23 centimeters, which was completely missed by the Met Office. They did not predict that there would be a deluge. Of course, yesterday's deluge they did predict, but that was sort of being wise after the event and so on. The same thing happened in 2015, by the way.
Yeah, so and not for lack of skill. And not for lack of skill, Mr. Raman. It happens because they're not equipped with the right functional radars. Yeah. This is exactly what has happened in Chennai this time. They don't have the right functional radars. Exactly what happened in Mumbai. We were told last time that the Mumbai radar has been fixed, and when the next round of rainfall came and the weather prediction went haywire, and we tried to find out, it still hadn't been fixed, and it's the same problem in Chennai. But let me ask you this one question, since you're very well aware of all things Chennai in terms of development. The argument that's often made is a lot of this construction is old. That time we didn't know, or now we are much aware. Post 2015, we have woken up to the reality of this is not good. Has it stopped? May I ask you, have new projects stopped? Has the encroachment stopped now?
Look, encroachments are continuing as they continued before. There is no, look, this is a huge, I mean, to use the term, $1 billion business that goes on irrespective of who is the government. And the sad part about the DMK government, now that they've come in, and I really hope that they would, try to clean up the mess. Now, they're going after all the AIADMK ministers, which is absolutely fine. If they've done something wrong, they should be prosecuted. But they're not willing to go after the officials. And nothing can be done as long as you don't bring the corrupt government officers to book. Who is allowing these encroachments?
Yeah.
Who is allowing regularization of entire colonies built on water bodies? Somebody is doing it.
Yes.
And they're doing it for a reason. And as long as you don't prosecute the government officials and that fear is completely not there, there is nothing that any government can do, whatever anybody...
But I'll tell you what, there is no intent. There is no intent. There was no intent during the AIADMK government's tenure.
One minute. Many of the officials against whom the DMK government made charges are now accompanying the ministers on the inspection rounds. I mean,
and the argument being given to us by DMK is, oh, now how long back do we go? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, or even 100 years. So we can't decide where we're going to start from. That's the excuse. The bottom line is there is no intent to either fix accountability or find and implement solutions. Completely out of time. Big thank you to all three of you for joining me on this conversation. The answer is not easy. The solution's probably not even coming anytime soon. All you and I can do is raise the volume, raise the pitch. For every time you and I have to suffer, we don't suffer in silence. we don't suffer as if we've become used to it and it's part of our life. We make it a point that our politicians, that our governments, that our local government officials and local body officials know this, and that we make it a voting issue. If we are paying taxes year after year after year, if we are buying homes and building homes and investing money, our hard-earned money, into building a life around it in these cities, the least that the governments can do is do their own job and do it properly. And if they don't, we have the right and the duty to raise the voice and make them accountable for that. It's on us. Thank you for joining us.